Hi and welcome friends. If this is your first time here, my name is Tiffany and I'm the International Witch. As you could probably tell from the thumbnail, this month's theme is going to be the Mimosa plant, or more accurately, the Acacia Dealbata. And I'm going to be continuing on in my Reverie Journal by Mellow Days. This thing has been a trooper, 2 years going. Today I'm going to be using the number 0 round and the number 4 round from Artify, as well as a white Posca pen and a number 5 micron. A list of all the watercolor shades I'm using today is on the left side of the screen if you want to stop and take a screenshot. I'm also going to be using a Crayola watercolor pencil just for some shading on my flowers. And I'm going in straight with a color just like I did last month instead of doing my usual outlines. And I find that this actually cuts down on a lot of my time on video. So this month's video is going to be 17 to 20 minutes instead of the normal 35 to 40 that I have to kind of crunch. And I'm starting to really feel more confident in my watercoloring. So I think these past couple months, January and February and now this one, are definitely my favorites. I was looking through my book from last year and I definitely prefer all the illustrations that I've done so far this year. I can really tell that my skills have improved and I'm very proud of them. They're taking on more of a delicate and complicated look, whereas the ones I did last year now, at least to me, look overly simplistic. So I'm glad that I'm branching out of my comfort zone. I'm really excited to be able to paint lemons this month, and I know that sounds kind of weird, but just hear me out. In the US, we associate lemons very strongly with summer, like lemonade and that kind of thing, very refreshing. But here in Italy, lemons actually grow in the wintertime. It's what we call citrus season, which starts at the beginning of November and lasts until the end of February. And that's when you'll see the majority of oranges and lemons and everything. So when I look at lemons, I don't see them as a summer thing anymore. So I didn't want to paint lemons just for the sake of painting lemons in the summer like everybody else. But I knew it would look weird if I painted lemons for, say, December or November, because obviously that's not when anyone else thinks of lemons. But then I saw this image on Pinterest, and it was the Acacia Dealbata with lemons, and I thought the combination was just gorgeous. And since March 8th is International Women's Day, and Acacia Dealbata is the flower for International Women's Day, I thought this was a great time to use them both because I'm still seeing the lingering afters of lemons, and the Acacia Dealbata is just now starting to bloom here in Italy. One really cool fact that I found out when I moved here in Italy that you may not know, the normal lemon that we think of when we see lemons, and let's be honest, it's all over everything in Amalfi. You see images of these lemons. Those actually can't grow naturally here in Naples. The climate is too windy and it's too sunny, so they instantly die. The lemons that grow here naturally are called sfusato lemons, and let me just tell you, these things are massive. I mean, these lemons grow to be the size of a football, and they're lumpy and bumpy. They're not pretty like you see all the images of the lemon in Amalfi. I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about the lemons, and they said they were curious as to why the Romans didn't eat lemons. They used them for cleaning and such, but they didn't actually eat them. And that's because these sfusato lemons are actually not sour. They're more bitter. A lot of people say they're pretty dang gross. You can eat them, but Here in Italy, anytime you see a sfusato lemon, normally it's holding gelato or some sort of fancy dinner. Like restaurants will use it as a bowl, but won't actually use the lemon itself. So if the regular citrus lemon tree can't grow here, then how are there so many of them growing? Well, that's actually due to a process called grafting, which is an interesting process. They take the orange tree, which actually grows very well here, and they'll cut a section off of it. Then they'll go to a fully mature lemon tree and cut off a small branch of it and stick them together and tape them shut. It's fascinating. This way, the branch of the lemon tree will continue to grow on the citrus tree. If you have the time, I would highly suggest watching a grafting video. It's very, very fascinating. Now I'm just using the Posca white paint pen to give a couple of highlights to the bottles, and this layout is done. Now onto my schedule page and my habit tracker. You'll remember that I mentioned International Women's Day is March 8th. Well, the original first ever Women's Day was celebrated February 28th, 1909 in the US, which is strange because nowadays the US doesn't really celebrate International Women's Day. Like, yes, some companies use it as an excuse to make an ad or a sale, but we don't really embrace it. But the Italians do. The Italians actually treat International Women's Day even stronger than Mother's Day. And I really like that because there are so many women out there, for many different reasons, who aren't mothers, either through the choice not to have children or because they physically can't. And I think it's kind of unfair that the only time we celebrate a woman is if she's a mother. But here in Italy, they use it just as an excuse for any woman. Like there's so many flowers. You will pass by stalls and stalls of flowers, and you can give them to your sisters. You can give them, like females will give them to their friends. Like anyone who's a woman can be celebrated that day. And they go real hard on it here in Italy, and I love that. In the US, women are just now trying to do that, but we call it Galentine's. Like it's a female, version of Valentine's Day. But here, they do that on International Women's Day. And the official flower of Women's Day is the Acacia Dealbata. Sometimes you'll see it called silver wattle or mimosa. However, this is not the mimosa plant. The mimosa plant is purple and its blooms look slightly different. However, you will most often hear this plant called mimosa, but they are two distinctly different categories of flowers. Acacia Dealbata is a pioneer species, which means in very rocky terrain where nothing else will grow, these will grow. Often when there's fires or decimated lands, they are one of the first to come back and heal the soil. And because of this resilience, this hardiness, they are often considered weeds in certain areas because they can outpace the natural vegetation. And these plants can get massive. They can grow up to be 100 feet tall. So you'll see small little bushes of the Dealbata, but you'll also see massive trees. And there's one massive tree down the road, and when it blooms, it is just stunning. It's like the sun comes out. Every part of the Acacia Dealbata is useful. Like the bark contains tannins that they use in leather processing, but its wood is also really good for furniture making and paper production. And the flowers have been used in like extracts and such for herbal medicines for their astringent and anti-inflammatory properties. And it's also really useful in perfumes. Luxury perfume brands such as Guerlain and Chanel have used the Mimosa Absolute as an ingredient in a lot of their perfumes. It adds a soft floral note, but it's also like a woodsy scent, similar to like violet, jasmine, rose, sandalwood. If you go to the grimoire section of my website, this month I've included a grimoire page for the lemon, for the Acacia Dealbata, as well as how to make a floral essence. If this is your first time here, then you may not know, but all of my bullet journal layouts as well as grimoire pages are available for free download on my website. The link is in the description below. All you have to do is navigate to the home page and sign up for my newsletter. You'll get a code in your email and you enter that code into the grimoire section to have access to all the printables. All I ask is that you don't pin anything that's in my password protected area. Also, I've been on kind of a creative spike lately, and I have created so many grimoire pages these past 2 weeks. I don't know if I'll put them all on at once just because there are so many of them, but I've definitely finished all of the individual zodiac pages. I've also created a couple of tarot pages, and I've also created the spell creation page that was requested. So if you want to create your own spells and keep them recorded in your Book of Shadows or grimoire, there is a page for that now. I realized that for the longest time I was doing so much research to do for my Instagram posts, but I wasn't putting it in my grimoire. And then when I started my blog, I was trying to get everything from my Instagram onto my blog, and now I have the YouTube. So I'm constantly bouncing from one platform to the other and trying to make sure that they all have the same equal amount of information, but I wasn't taking the time to transfer all of this information into my own personal grimoire. So my grimoire was pretty bare. Okay, and a quick overview of the schedule and habit tracker spread. I'm glad I added the little swirls on the potion bottle because I think it just gives it more texture and makes it a little bit more magical looking. And those lemons are a prime example of why I really love watercolors. All that color variation, and I only used gold and yellow. Now for the final layout, which is my content and spell page and my lunar page. We've discussed how the Acacia Dealbata is a pioneer species, that it can survive in the roughest of terrains, but it still has these soft, fluffy, yellow flowers, and that's the primary reason why it was chosen to be the flower for the International Women's Day. It's so soft, but it's so resilient. And it's those attributes that transfer over into its magical properties. The bright yellow, cheerful flowers of the Acacia Dealbata is linked to the sun, which makes them great symbols for warmth, renewal, vitality, resilience, joys. Sometimes these can be used in spells to attract positive energy or happiness. They're also often associated with intuition, psychic awareness, and the divine feminine, making it a great ingredient for like self-discovery, dream work, or feminine rituals. The bark and leaves of the Acacia Dealbata are thought to have protective properties, and sometimes people use these in incense blends to cleanse the space of any negative energies, and also as a protection barrier. In Egyptian mythology, the acacia tree was thought to have been grown where all the gods were born, so it heavily influences a lot of Egyptian tales. And this is how the Acacia Dealbata gets its association with protection, divine knowledge, and the afterlife. It's also why a lot of sacred objects were constructed with acacia wood. And also it was thought that just carrying a piece of the wood on your body would give you protection and strength. And don't forget its delicate little blooms. It's said if you put them in a sachet or just place them under your pillow, it'll help you have prophetic dreams. Now, just a heads up, as with all flowering trees and blooms, this can upset your allergies. It can start hay fever. Make sure to be very careful with it until you know how you react to it. Although the pollen is very heavy on the plant, so it's not as easily dispersed as some of the lighter pollen, so it's not going to be as much of a problem in the air. It still can cause discomfort if you have allergies. And as a matter of fact, if you have skin sensitivities, be very careful because even its bark and leaves and sap, they contain compounds that can cause skin irritation or dermatitis. Once again, just be very careful whenever you're handling a new plant, especially if you already know you have sensitivities to plants. For the full moon and the new moon this month, the full moon is going to be on March 14th in the sign of Virgo. So when you're trying to think of something that you would like to gain, keep in mind Virgo is very practical and hardworking and kind, but they also work too much and they're overly critical of themselves. So maybe something you want to gain is a better work-life balance, or maybe more positive encouragement, better self-esteem. And then the new moon that we get on March 29th is going to be in Aries. Now, Aries is a passionate, honest, optimistic, very authentic sign. However, they are aggressive, impulsive, hasty, short-tempered. So maybe you need to let go of some of your impatience and some of your act first, think later sensibilities. Maybe do a little bit of shadow work and see about anger issues that may be lying under the surface that you're very quick to react to, and get a hold on those triggers. Since I wasn't going to be doing any more watercolor on this page, I went ahead and just grabbed a regular pen that I had on hand. And I kind of wish I hadn't, because this pen, while it doesn't bleed through the papers, it does spread. So unfortunately, my Virgo's face is a little blurry in real life. And with some final touches, the final layout of this month's Bujo is complete. Time for the final walkthrough. What was your favorite page this time? I hope you had fun with me today and that you walk away with some inspiration. If you wouldn't mind, could you please take a second to leave me a comment and say if you liked the video, what you want to see more of, or if you could just leave an emoji, just anything to help with the algorithm so more people can see my videos. Thank you so much for watching today. Love you. Bye.